As a Canadian kid growing up, watermelons were the taste of summer. In my mind, they were as exotic as fruit could get, and I look forward to the juicy messiness every year. Fast forward to today, and the modern food system provides us with watermelons nearly 12 months of the year. But it's just not the same, both in taste and in nostalgia. So, for the last 8 years or so, I've set out to learn everything there is to know about growing watermelons. When and how to plant them, where to plant them, the best soil for growing them, how much water and food do they need, and of course, how to tell when they're finally ready to harvest. So today, let's dive into the world of watermelons as I show you everything that I've learned about cultivating them over the years, allowing you to grow and harvest some of the best ones you've ever tasted. While grown around the world on every continent, save for Antarctica, watermelons have their origins in the arid regions of Northeast Africa in areas like Sudan and Libya. Initially grown as not only a food source, but also as a storage of water, the modern watermelon has come a long way, with the seedless varieties not even being developed until 1939 in Japan. Regardless, there's 1,000+ varieties of this cucurbit available for us to grow, categorized into 4 basic types. First, we have the icebox varieties, which grow between 5 and 15 pounds each, and they were initially developed for ease of travel. Second, we got the picnic types, which is anything over 15 pounds. These are going to be your big daddies of the watermelon world. Third are the seedless types, which tend to be between 10 and 20 pounds each. Now, these guys still do have seeds, it's just that they're bred to be very underdeveloped as well as edible. Lastly, we have the orange-yellow types. Best known for their unique flesh color, these guys come in both seeded as well as seedless. Regardless of whatever variety you choose to grow, watermelons are a warm temperature crop, requiring at least 60 to 80 days of warm weather minimum. Planted in the spring and then harvested in the late summer, watermelons are fairly low maintenance for the day-to-day, but they do have a few hard requirements to grow and perform their best. As mentioned, watermelon plants are a full sun crop, requiring at least 8+ hours a day of direct sunlight. Their ideal temperature to grow is between 75 and 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and they need a moist, highly organic soil that freely drains water. Slightly acidic to neutral pH works best, and if you're growing in containers, make sure that they have at least a foot of soil depth. Pretty basic stuff and nothing out of the ordinary. So let's rewind about 3 months to when I first planted this bed so I can show you how to get started. Being a cucurbit, watermelons really are best direct seeded. As soon as your spring soil temperatures reach 65 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer, plant 2 to 3 seeds together quite shallow, around 1/2 inch to no more than 1 inch deep. Now, as adult plants, watermelons definitely need their space. So why would we plant so many seeds so close together? Well, the answer to that is it's all about the germination success rate. By planting so many seeds in one location, even if our seed viability is as low as 33%, we pretty much guarantee 100% germination success rate for that spot. This is necessary because with such a long growing crop, we cannot afford to have any setbacks. If all the seeds happen to sprout, no worries. Just thin them down to the strongest plant. Okay, once those seeds are planted, keep them well watered and free of weeds, and they should sprout in about a week or so. Large floppy cotyledons, or seed leaves first, followed by the more familiar true leaves out the center about a week later. Once you see 2 to 3 sets of true leaves, make sure that you thin out those watermelons like we talked before, and make sure that they're all spaced about 2 feet apart. Now, if you do happen to have an extremely short growing season, or maybe you're trying to max out your bed's production through multi-cropping, you can start your seeds early indoors and then transplant them later, either when the conditions are more favorable or you have the bed space. However, it's not as simple and straightforward as, say, doing tomatoes or peppers. The best way that I've found to do this is to use biodegradable containers, such as these paper cups here. Watermelons, like their close cousins cucumbers, are not transplanted because they hate transplanting. By starting them off in these paper cups, the whole thing can be planted, never disturbing those roots. It's super easy. About a month before your last spring frost date, take your paper cups, make about 6 to 8 holes in the bottom, fill them up with a quality seeding mix, and plant 2 to 3 seeds in each one. Again, about a ½ inch deep, no more. Keep the soil moist, but not soggy, at about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and in around a week or so, your watermelons are gonna sprout. About a week later, once those first true leaves emerge, drop the temps to room temperature and give them as much light as possible to prevent floppiness. Again, thin to the strongest plant, and once your outside temps have reached 70 degrees Fahrenheit, you can plant them outside. Dig a hole a little bit deeper and a little bit wider than that paper cup and simply place your watermelon plant inside. Backfill in with some good soil, and that's it. You've successfully transplanted a watermelon plant. Like before, space them 2 to 3 feet apart and make sure to give them a good coating of mulch. Give them a thorough watering to consolidate the planting, and we've now caught up to our direct seeded watermelons. So, whichever method you decided to plant, it's now late spring, bleeding into early summer, and our watermelons are in a full sun location, 2 to 3 feet apart, in soil that's moist but not soggy, and mulched heavily. From here, it's pretty much smooth sailing, and for the next 2 months or so, the only thing that we have to worry about with our watermelons is food and water. No doubt your watermelon plants need to be kept moist, but they can never be soggy. In fact, these guys are originally from northern Africa, and their direct descendants were actually crawling desert vines. Watermelon plants are designed to seek out, grab onto, and store water. As such, I tend to water mine very thoroughly, but much less often, no more than twice a week unless I see some extreme wilting. Also, as that fruit begins to get some size on it, cut back on that watering entirely to encourage more sweetness. For fertilizing, it's the same thing. Moderation is better unless you have an extremely poor soil. I feed my watermelons only twice. Once about a week after planting, or about 2 weeks after germination if you're direct seeding, and then again about a month later. Now, if you are growing one of the larger varieties, you can fertilize a third time about 3 weeks after that. However, once I see that the fruit has reached 1/3 of its intended size, I stop fertilizing. Use a balanced, liquid organic solution, and you can use the same fertilizer each time. Simply water it in with one of your scheduled waterings. Easy stuff. Just remember, once you start to see fruit, it's probably time to stop feeding. Speaking of that fruit, anywhere from 30 to 50 days after planting, you're going to start to notice little yellow flowers appearing at the end of the vines. Right now, the summer is in full swing, and this is what we've been waiting for. As a cucurbit, watermelons have imperfect flowers. What I mean by this is, the plants have separate male and female flowers, often on the same vine. What this also means, more importantly, watermelons cannot self-pollinate. Even though the male and female flowers are right there beside each other, they do not shed pollen easily. Therefore, they must rely on insects to do the job. Low or poor fruiting can definitely be a direct result of a lack of pollination. So, be aware, we need the bees. Soon after flowering, in as little as a week or so, you'll notice that in their place on the vine begins to swell. This is the developing watermelon, and each female flower has the ability to produce one. Because of this, we do need to be conscious of overproduction and I like to limit my watermelons to a max of 3 per plant. Sometimes in the case of the little ones, I'll let them grow 4. Nothing special really needs to be done with the fruit, and if you're using a dry structured mulch like say straw or shredded leaves, those melons can sit right on top and develop, no problem. And like we mentioned before, really limit that watering as the fruit begins to reach peak size and cut back on that fertilizing as well. Really, just wait it out, we're almost there. This is it, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's finally time to harvest our fruit. However, watermelons don't ripen off the vine, so this is something that we have to time near perfect. Fortunately, there's 3 universal clues that help us to do just that. And the first of those comes from the back of the seed packet. On the flip side of every seed packet of every watermelon variety, there's a wealth of information right at your fingertips. And displayed prominently is the days to harvest or days to maturity. Count forward from the day the first true leaves appear, and you'll know when it's time to harvest. Honestly, it's surprisingly accurate. The second way is even more accurate because it actually involves observing the fruit itself, and that's to check the skin or the rind of the watermelon. While shiny, even sometimes glossy early on, as the fruit matures, it takes on a more waxy, flat appearance. Once that sheen is worn off, you know your watermelons are probably ripe to pick. It works for most varieties, and it's far more accurate than counting the days because you're observing the fruit itself. And the third way to tell that your watermelons are finally ripe to pick is from the tendrils. Looking along the vine at the tendril that's closest to the fruit, you know your watermelons are ready to pick when that tendril has turned brown and crispy. As your melons ripen, that tendril loses its will to live, turning from green and curly and actively growing to brown and dried up. Once this happens, for most varieties, the fruit is ready to pick. Now, for minis like this sugar baby here, you gotta wait another week after that. I don't know why that is, but it seems to be a pretty hard and fast rule. This is the method that I use the most. Also, if you pick up a ripe fruit that's been sitting directly on mulch, you'll notice a lighter yellowish spot on the bottom. This is what's known as the field spot. Coupled with the brown dried out tendril, you'll know pretty much for sure that your watermelon is ripe. And that's pretty much it. All that I've learned about growing watermelons over the last 8 years or so. Pretty straightforward, but still a lot of info to digest at once. So let's go ahead and recap those main points to make sure that we got them all. Watermelons are a summer crop that takes a little bit of patience. Requiring a full sun location with moist but well-drained soil, these guys are fairly straightforward if given the space and time they need. Best direct sown in the spring when the soil temperatures reach 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Place 2 to 3 seeds together about a ½ inch deep every 2 feet or so. The good seeds will sprout in about a week, and a week after that, you can thin them down to the strongest plant per spot. Now, it's not normally suggested, but if you have a short growing season, you can start your watermelons early indoors. The trick is to use biodegradable pots so that you can transplant them when the weather is warmer without disturbing those roots. Mulch heavily in either case and keep them well watered but never soggy. Little yellow flowers form after about a month or so, and they must be pollinated by outside forces such as bees. The flowers themselves are short-lived, and pretty soon those vines are going to begin to swell up with actual watermelons. As the fruit grows, it's important to cut back on the water as well as the fertilizing. Harvest your melons when that skin goes from glossy to dull, and the tendril that's nearest to the fruit turns brown and crispy. Watermelons truly are a summer delight. No doubt I look forward to them every year. But they do take their time to ripen, as well as a fair amount of space, making them more challenging than some of your other crops. Hopefully today I've shown you all the tips you need to know to grow your best watermelons yet. Hey, best of luck guys, and I'll see you soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching guys. I appreciate the support more than you know. And if you're getting value from these videos, please like and share them to spread the word and help your fellow gardener to grow better.